Frank Abdo's winning stock picks. We're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday around noon or before sometimes. Industries to buy are one thing, industries to avoid are another. Transportation is one of those industries to avoid. Planes, trains, cars, and motorcycles. And just plain getting around isn't enough to make these companies worth buying. Why? Lots of customers, very slim profits. Simple reason, competition and lack of barrier to entry for most of them. Now let's take planes for example. Starting with Boeing, the manufacturer. And while it is true Boeing lacks competition, it's also true Boeing has created a massive self-inflicted wound for itself in what is called their latest airplane, the C-37 MAX airplane. This airplane has caused Boeing shares to drop about 25% from its high of 2019. And while I normally think this should present a buying opportunity because it's the buy low thing, it is really too early to tell with Boeing. Why? Because this aircraft was defective and it appears Boeing knew it. How do we know they knew it? Because airline pilots were telling them, and I believe even their own test pilots were telling them of the concerns that they had with the aircraft. And their concerns were ignored and resulted sadly in 2 deadly crashes, killing all aboard. What makes it even more challenging for Boeing is they don't yet have a fix, or at least they haven't confirmed it. And what they say about the fix is gobbledygook. You can't get your arms around it. And as a result, there's hundreds of these planes sitting on the ground that can't be flown. And when you can't fly them, and the longer they sit, the more money it costs to rehab them and put them up in the air, even though you do have the fix, because planes don't get better with age not being flown. They get worse with age. Also, this is just a side note, Boeing is a major part of the US economy because of its multiplier effect on all of the suppliers and customers in their industry is enormous just for Boeing. Boeing has 4 million parts in every airplane. So it's easy to see a lot of industries are hurt by this, right? Well, they are, and that is hurting the economy in a meaningful way. That takes us to the airlines themselves. Competition is fierce. Seats are filled on the airplanes, that's for real, but they can't get enough money to fly people all over the place, coupled with the fact they got hundreds of those Boeing planes they paid for sitting on the ground going nowhere. That's a big problem. Bottom line, stay away from airplanes of any sort. Trains. The competition for transport remains fierce, as well as the expense of operations that it takes to keep these things running. The enormous expense is hard to understand, the business is hard to understand, and I say there's better places to invest your money that you can better understand what their products are and who their customers are. Can't understand that with trains. Autos. Wow, this is a dead-end investment and basically always has been. Now, we've had a raging bull market for 10 years, and the proof is Ford and General Motors stock have gone nowhere. Ford was $9 10 years ago, it's $9 today. General Motors, I don't know, it went public at 35 again, it's 35 today, or maybe less, who knows. GM stock has never traded over 50, and it looks like it never will. The main reason that the autos face is simply too much competition and too much capacity. The automakers fight tooth and nail to gauge demand. They try to hook up the demand with the manufacturing, but auto plants are not easily turned on and off. This is an almost impossible task, but a task that once accomplished is hugely expensive. Also, their demographic is changing on them. Younger people really don't want to own cars. They hate driving. They hate being stuck in traffic. They hate the massive expense of owning the vehicle. And so therefore, they're shying away from them. The auto industry has basically one really bright spot in it, and that's Tesla. Tesla is run by the Thomas Edison of our day, Elon Musk. However, Tesla is a difficult investment because it is driven, if you forgive the pun, by so much emotion. And you cannot invest in shares that are just driven so much by that. I think Tesla stocks will be higher, but the emotion of it in the short run and in the intermediate run is just very difficult to deal with. So I say stay away from autos, even Tesla. Next up, motorcycles. The famous or infamous Harley-Davidson, depending on your point of view of the folks who rode them. I must admit, I was an avid rider. I rode with friends all over this great country. I saw beautiful sights, and I saw that from the saddle of a Harley-Davidson, and it was amazing. Even though we rode through rain, sometimes chilling rain, and snowstorms at times. Scary, yes. Life-threatening, yes. But that's what made it so thrilling. And it was a little crazy. I had a young family at the time, so I was really crazy. There was an old saying amongst Harley riders, I'd rather push a Harley than ride a Honda. Can you imagine that? Push an 800-pound bike? Wow. But that's the way they felt. What did that mean? It meant that Harleys broke down a lot. Hondas never did. But the sound of the engine, the clothes, the reputation of the unsavory gang riders, Harley-Davidson coupled with the love of chrome, the exposed V-twin motor made it a must-have bike for the generation known as the greatest generation. Well, that's created two problems for Harley they cannot fix. And the shares are reflecting that as they continue to deteriorate. Number one, the younger generation isn't going for anything that breaks down. And if they're going to buy a motorcycle, they definitely aren't going for that. Harley actually reveled in the fact that the things broke down. It was legendary. Hell, it was part of their culture, for crying out loud. Second most important part that they can't fix, the biggest part of their business is the greatest generation, which I just said. I'm part of that. We're dying out. So you better listen to me while you can, by the way. A cheap plug, but a plug nonetheless. We're getting older. We're dying. The bikes killed some of us, for crying out loud. We know that. And we also know it takes all of our senses to be sharp, to ride those bikes, and to ride them the way we wanted to ride them. Through the mountain roads, through the plains, through the prairies, and that's what we rode them, and we loved it. These two issues are the reason Harley is a stock to avoid. They cannot fix those two problems, although they did try, by the way. They came out with a three-wheel bike called a trike. Can you imagine that? A trike to get people like me to ride a trike. I'm not interested, and neither are my friends. We're into riding the two-wheel types, the ones that lean into the corners, the ones that are thrilled to feel that you have that two-dimensional aspect to them, not the one-dimensional trike. That didn't work for them. They're not selling, and it was a gasp effort for them. Another reason to avoid Harley-Davidson stock. Remember, to be kept up with all of these great ideas on investing, money-making ideas, saving money, avoiding stocks is just as much a value as picking the winners. Subscribe and click on the bell to be reminded of the next episodes. That's it for now. See you next time.